Hi guys. So we were sort of introduced yesterday. My name is Janna O'Sullivan. I am the Executive Director of Hayes Valley and Laguna Grove, but I'm also the Senior Director of Nourishment for AgeSong. The piece of that is what we're going to be talking about today is the nutrition with the elders. And this morning I'll start this off with, I was standing in trying to get dressed, trying to figure out what t-shirt I was going to wear today. And everything that I own is bacon related. Just about. Probably have 20 t-shirts that all have some form of praise to bacon. I have one that says bacon gives me a lard on. I have one that says porktologist. And since I knew that Nada was going to be recording me today, I chose not to wear those t-shirts. But with that being said, food is number one of the most important things in my life. It stems from who I am as far as care, because it's an opportunity for, I can care for you by feeding you. I've always believed that there is a direct connection in this environment to feeding someone and sustaining their life. If you come into me and say, I'm not doing well because I don't like the food, I'm not eating, you're coming from home and you are labeled failure to thrive, that doesn't last here. There are so many people here who have come in with that specific diagnosis that are on hospice, that people have said, oh, well, you know, they haven't gained weight, they're losing weight, and they are here 2 years later and successfully gained almost 30 pounds, the specific woman that I'm talking about. She came in the building and her poor son crying hysterically because she wouldn't eat at home. He did everything. He tried everything that he could to get her to eat. And in the first 4 months that she was here, she had gained 14 pounds. And she was one of the ones that when we would go on tour and people would ask, do you like living here? She would lean back. Please, let's preface this by, she is a woman's rights attorney and has been for all of her life. She would lean back and she would stroke her belly and say, this is why I like living here, because I can get anything I want to eat. I firmly believe that the food is the last place that you still have a choice in this type of situation. So when you have residents that are complaining about they're not getting the correct care or they're not liking the fact that they have to live here and they don't get to go where they want, most of your complaints will come regarding the food because they still have a choice. I don't like cod. I don't like baked beans. I don't like hamburgers. But most of the time after you sit down and spend some time with them, the complaints really aren't about food. It's actually about, I want someone to listen to me. I want someone to stop and take the time. And in 10 years of doing this, I have only had 2 people that there really was a complaint about the food per se. Pretty vocal about something sucked and I didn't disagree. You know, there's a situation, hey, I completely agree with you, that was not our best suit. We did not do our best service for that one. I've also had people who will come to me and say, you can't do that, you couldn't make that, you can't make it like my grandmother made it, and I can't. But you know what? I can try. And every effort is made here because what we just did is we connected about something that you grew up with, something that was important to you. I personally do not like goulash. I have never liked goulash, but I made a goulash 11 different times for a woman because we were trying to figure out whatever it was, spice was, whatever the length of cooking, whatever it was. But what we did over 11 times of making goulash was we connected, we started a relationship, and when it came to the place where she wasn't eating and she was closer to end of life, we had a little more time together because she trusted me that I was listening to the things that she was saying. So as I touched on yesterday, this is about relational care. You know, you and I can sit down and talk about what our favorite foods are, and I firmly believe, and I'm actually tracking this now in my spare time, if we sit down and talk about what our favorite foods are, they link to a memory of your childhood or your grandparents, something in the way that you were raised. Whatever that comfort food is very, very similar to what it was for your mother, what it was for your grandmother. So it's a good talking point when it comes down to what is it. Doesn't necessarily have to be how it's made, it's who's making it. And what we're doing here is we're spending a lot of time with the residents asking those questions. The chef that you met yesterday, her name is Gracie. Gracie will meet with a family and talk about, hey, what's their favorite food? And we usually do this before they move in the building, because I have proven, which I love to say, that if you're moving in here and I have found out that you like turkey burgers with wild rice, and I make turkey burgers the first day that you're here, the first piece is this place can't suck as much as I think it's going to, because it's the whole choice thing. I didn't choose to come here, my family wants here, but it's completely orchestrated. You're rolling in the door and, oh wow, it's my favorite meal. How did they know? Oh, well, they couldn't have known. I didn't tell them. But it can't be so bad. So it's immediately a place of allowing people to start asking questions and find out who they are and what they're doing. So it does seem a little pre-orchestrated, but it is very effective. So when the chef is sitting down and having a conversation about likes and dislikes, it's all captured. Any relationship that you have with the residents, anything about food, please, 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 please pass it on. We have a gentleman downstairs on the first floor who is Chinese and usually pretty easygoing about food, doesn't really complain. Wednesday, he said, I want soup with bok choy in it. I don't want the soup that you're making. I like your soup, but I want soup with bok choy. And of course, I had no bok choy in the kitchen, so I went to a Chinese place and ordered soup with bok choy. Brought it back to him, and it is unbelievable, the response. What took me 20 minutes from here to 16th Avenue to pick up soup and bring it back is by far the most rewarding thing that I can do, because I've given him something he wants. And if it's within my hands and within my capability, in this community as well as Wood Park, we will do it. We will not tell a resident we do not have something food related. We might not have it at the moment, but we can get it. There's a gentleman at Wood Park that eats okra twice a week. We can't get fresh okra in anything smaller than a 50-pound box. So for those of you at Wood Park that know Kalen goes to Trader Joe's and buys a thing of okra and brings it in for this gentleman, because I will say he's my child and he's been trained well, but he knows that. I mean, and that is by far the easiest way to make someone's day. Stop and think if somebody made food for you that you love. I mean, how much would that open you up and make you aware of everything around you? It's a huge, huge piece of what we do. So that's in your day-to-day interactions. But when you get down to the nuts and bolts of everything we're doing, you guys, bless you, you guys are running into situations where residents have special diets and they have special needs, and some people are allergic and some people aren't, and how do we maneuver through that world? In these two buildings, as well as Wood Park, they have what they call diet boards on the floors themselves, plus in the kitchen. So if you have a resident that you're not really sure, are they allergic to shellfish, or I had a lady that was allergic to tomatoes one time, whatever the situation is, you can always go into the kitchens and you'll see what looks like a card hanging on the wall. And on that card, it'll show the resident's picture and it'll tell you likes, dislikes, and allergies. It's a good little cheat sheet. You can also go on the floors in these buildings, and at Wood Park behind, when you go in the back dining room, underneath the counter, there's an open side armoire that's got the list of everyone's diets. You can look and see, and it'll give you a brief cheat sheet of who's on what diet. We support 4 diets, technically. No added sugar, which is also called CCHO, controlled carbohydrates. Those are people that are considered diabetic and have to have controlled sugars. Now, I will say that on the menu that we have right now, don't freak out if somebody eats a piece of cake, because the way the menu's written, the carbs, the sugars, everything is calculated out. So if they eat a piece of cake once a day, they're well within their sugar parameter. If they ate 4 pieces of cake a day, they're a little outside their sugar parameter. But the menu is written so they can still have normal. They don't have to be designated, well, I have to have a sugar-free cookie, or I have to have sugar-free ice cream, or I can't even have dessert. They are able to, what I call, blend into the normal mainstream without attention being brought to who they are. We do offer sugar-free ice cream. We do offer sugar-free cookies. And we offer fruit at every meal. So if you have someone that's a brittle diabetic, like we do in this building, which, who knows what a brittle diabetic is?
Not as well managed as they potentially could be.
Yes. And also, a brittle diabetic's blood sugar can go from normal right now to in an hour. The only thing that's changed is they've gotten upset, and their blood sugar can either bottom out or go high. It's all based on them personally, not necessarily anything they've eaten or drank. It's just system, the environment for them specifically. We have a gentleman in this building that is that way. So when he gets really mad, the first thing I have them do is check his blood sugar. He was actually our first person that came into this building that supported the diabetic program. He's been here for 2 years. So the beauty of, the wonderfulness and beauty of having nurses is thanks to this gentleman, and we have managed him very, very well. We also support a no added salt diet. There is no salt added to the food. Now with that, if we're having pork, it's going to have salt in it. I didn't add any salt, but it does come with salt. So you will have residents that will say, well, I can't have salt, and they're eating sausage. So, you know, it's kind of a catch-22 of understanding that there is no salt shakers on the tables. We do have them for the residents who do request it and want to use them, but they're not out on the tables because, again, you'll have everybody. We also support what we call texture modification. Anybody ever eaten pureed food? What'd you think of pureed food? Okay, so the policy here is, if I won't eat it, we don't serve it. So the pureed food here is exactly like whatever the actual menu is. So if it's, you know, baked chicken, they're basically just getting baked chicken that's been pureed. It's the same spices, everything's being used, because when you get to a place where you're eating pureed, most people don't really want it because of the way it looks. So you really have to super sell it that it really tastes good. We definitely take steps to try and prevent people from having to go on puree. We also support what we call texture modification that's mechanical soft or mechanical. It's a chopped variation. There's a big range window in the mechanical world. You can have what's considered a large chop, which is where people can pick up with their hands or they can't manipulate a knife. Or you have all the way down to a fine minced chop because it's a chewing issue. So we, you know, the variables are huge in what you can do in that world. One of the beauties of assisted living is we have a lot of flexibility in our diets. We do support gluten-free diets here, but that's more self-managed than it is anything that we're doing. Most people that are gluten-free, it's usually people with celiac disease. It's not in truth that they're allergic to gluten. I've never had someone in this type of situation that was gluten-free, gluten-free, because it would be very, very hard for us to support. But we do have 4 people in these 2 buildings that are gluten-free. So we offer gluten-free bread. We offer gluten-free snacks. The options are there for any type of variation. We also have quite a few vegans and vegetarians in these buildings as well. As I think I touched on yesterday, we have 93 people in these 2 buildings, and there's 93 meals served every day. 24 of those meals are modified, meaning you have a vegetarian, we're having tostadas for lunch that happen to be pork tostadas. All they're getting is just a vegetarian tostada. Same thing, same idea. Lots more avocados, because that seems to be the thing everybody wants here is avocados. You guys should really look at the kitchen and watch their production. They go in each meal and they create 24 separate plates that are different than what the actual meal is, and almost 10 of those 24 get a side of an avocado. Don't ask me why. It's request. That's what they want. Who are we to say they can't have it? We have a lot more flexibility in our food budget than the average assisted living. Yes. But I'm trying to give them the model between the two. Because a lot of people look at assisted living and think, oh, it has to be in this box. And as I told you yesterday, we're not in that box. We're outside the box. I don't even call us assisted living anymore. Because as we're striving towards is it's just living. Your name tags, my name tag, his name tag just has our name on it. It doesn't say Janna O'Sullivan, Executive Director. It just has my name. Simply because we're all here together. Why do you need to know who I am? Why do I need to know who you guys are? I just need to know your names. Because I'm horrible with names. Thank God for name tags. But it's the same idea with the residents. So when it comes to we're going to sit down and have a meal together, it's let's talk about the food. Let's talk about what you like, what you don't like, or let's talk about the weather, whatever. You're going to be in that situation where you're sitting at a table full of people and you're not sure who wants what or who wants how, but just go with it, literally. You're not going to kill anybody. I promise. I promise. There's not going to be any staff here that are going to let you do anything that harm the resident. They'll guide you through this process. You can look on the floors if you're concerned about diets and look at the wall and it'll tell you who's who. And the beauty of it is there's a picture. So as you start in this program, it's kind of like a cheat sheet. So you can go, oh, that's Mrs. Harper. That's the one that Janna talks about who's gained all this weight and everybody said was going to die. She's wonderful, by the way. But it gives you the piece of connection and voice. So when you're sitting down and you're talking about the diets, Sue Ann's been beautiful in that respect because someone will be put on a diet because the doctor says that's what they're supposed to be on. And as I think I touched with you guys yesterday, I don't like the rules. I like to go outside of the rules quite a bit. So just because you're telling me someone needs to be on a pureed diet, I'm going to try myself first. I've done this long enough. As I said, I've been a chef for 20 years and 10 years in assisted living. Just because someone says they need to be pureed doesn't mean they have to be pureed. I will spend the time and sit with someone and feed them to see. I'll give them all variations to see what works best for them because it's quality of life. If I can see that I'm chewing on a pork chop as opposed to eating puree, I'm a little bit happier. Freedom to be is a huge, huge piece in this. We have a gentleman across the street who came back from the hospital and they told him he had to have puree. And he looked at Christina and I and said, if I'm going to choke to death on food, I want to choke to death on a pork chop and I want to know it's a pork chop. So there's we're all walking around joking, saying freedom to choke because he makes his own decisions. Who am I to say that you can't have a pork chop? And that sums up my philosophy completely. And the whole bacon thing started about 4 years ago because we had a lady who loved bacon and she was Jewish. She was well into forgetfulness and loved bacon. And her son was a high Jewish rabbi. So of course everybody's freaking out. Oh my God, this woman can't eat bacon. To the point that she sat down with the pig from the luau and pulled it towards her and started eating. And I'm taking pictures because I think it's the coolest thing in the world. Had a conversation with her son, and her son was like, I don't care. Is she happy? Is she happy? She hasn't eaten bacon in 83 years. She's making up for it. Let her eat bacon. So that philosophy is wonderful. But then you also have the other side where the families are like, absolutely not. They can't have bacon. It's not good for them. It's too much cholesterol. Not healthy, not healthy, not healthy. So you do kind of have to reach a happy medium. So what's my happy medium? Turkey bacon. It works. It's still bacon. It's just from a turkey as opposed to a pig. And in my purist bacon world, it's not the same at all. Duck bacon's really good though too, if anybody's had duck bacon. It's really, really good. But so we try to meet the families as well as the residents, but I will be the person to say, if you want a piece of bacon, I'm going to give you bacon. Notter's personal preference is broccoli. If I served that man broccoli at every meal, he'd be completely ecstatic. Am I wrong? So that's what we do. I mean, we boil down and find out what people like. We boil down and get to the root of why do you like broccoli?
I fell down the stairs when I was 2.
You're in a good room to talk about that. But most people like the food because it's comfort. It's comfort. It is really what makes us feel good. My personal choice right now is pie. Is pie. You could put a piece of pie in front of me and I'll do just about anything. I'm a definite pie person. But that goes back to my grandmother. My grandmother used to sit and make pie every Sunday for my dad. Coconut cream pie is #1 choice. But she'd make fresh whipped, she'd whip the eggs, everything, the whites, and it was the act of. Any person that's ever been in my life will tell you that I would much prefer you to make me something to me making it for myself because you're making it with love. And that's every ounce of what we're doing here. You guys take the opportunity, spend some time in the kitchen and talk to the guys. We have guys downstairs who have created their own little family because they're here all from other countries. But they spend all of their time making food for other people. And they are a very tight-knit network. It's the same thing at Wood Park. You spend all this time caring for other people. So when we turn around and do food for them, it's wild because they just, how do you get this information? Well, it's the same time I'll have conversations with you. Oh, hey, do you happen to like hanger steak? You guys had hanger steak yesterday. We'll have hanger steak again. You're picking up these little nuggets of information that when you spend time with people. So I'm asking you to ask questions. Sit down, have a conversation, and engage the resident and see what they're doing. I will tell you from a perspective of an executive director as well as whoever I am, the nourishment director, senior nourishment director, if you're going to sit with a resident and feed them, sit with them, please. Do not stand above them. Can I borrow you for a minute? Have a seat. If I'm coming towards you and I'm trying to feed you and I'm above you and you have forgetfulness, put yourself in a place of forgetfulness, and I'm trying to feed you, what's your first reaction?
Why is someone's arm in my face?
Yeah. Most people will do like this because you're coming from above and you see how she's not even probably in it yet, but she's already reaching back. How is someone going to be open to being fed if you're standing above them? So that's where I encourage you to sit down with the resident. You will never, ever, ever get in trouble in any of these buildings for sitting with a resident. I'd much rather you do that than paperwork. I know it's important, but it's also the whole being with theory. And if I'm sitting here talking to you, trying to feed you, you're a lot more open to it. It's a lot more of an engagement, and it's not me doing to you, it's me helping you. Thank you.
And ideally, you would actually face the person, right? I mean, not even be on the side, but actually, if you sat down so that we are actually having a conversation. And then what I see a lot is the speed is a huge thing, right? I mean, slow down. I mean, just really notice and get in the flow with the person. Right? I mean, sometimes when you see anybody going a little fast or standing up, just remind them. We just always, sometimes you forget or whatever, but just remind them constantly to go slow.
You have to be mindful because how are you going to feel if I'm doing this?
Yes, really,
And also, give the person a choice about, what they want on the plate. If there's 3 things, don't assume that they want it all, one thing then the other thing. Maybe they want, mix it up or,
Well, and then you also have situations where you'll have people, we also support a diet that you'll never find in another assisted living. I'm working on patenting it right now. It's called the Fingers Program. I have to find a different name for it because that's a little odd. But the idea is if you're having baked chicken for lunch and mashed potatoes and carrots, the person that's on a Fingers diet will have chicken strips, grilled chicken strips, roasted potatoes, and baby carrots. So the idea is that it's all hand-based because as you progress in forgetfulness, you go back to the place where you're using your hands. This is where you started, the first time you started feeding yourself was using your hands. So you get back to that place, and it's about dignity. I would much rather use my hands than have someone feed me. So on Laguna Grove 2, you'll see a lot of residents that use their hands. You'll also see a lot of residents who will have their own plate and they will reach towards yours. And part of that is because of macular degeneration, a very big piece of this. Stop and think, put blinders on your eyes, and try and look straight down, number one. Think of your plate right in front of you. You can't see it. You can see across from you. I can see your plate, and it looks really good. So they reach across. And on the second floor, it's beautiful because they walk around and pick off of each other's plates. And nobody has a problem with it. Occasionally, you'll have someone that will be in midstream with a piece of food, and someone will try and take it. So you just have to work with it and give them back a piece of food. But it's almost a situation where the rules of eating are not there. Everybody's just trying to get sustenance. We have 2 gentlemen on that floor that do nothing but walk. So this is a situation where you're trying to get calories in them because they're constantly moving. So as he's walking, you'll notice somebody's handing him a piece of sandwich, or someone has created chopped up apple and hand. On that floor, I could sit there and peel fruit for hours and do nothing but pass fruit. Simply because you're at a place where you're burning more calories and you can't articulate that you're hungry. There is a term that I'm sure you guys are familiar with. It's hangry. You are angry and you are hungry. And in my world, you're hungry before you're angry. It's a very good indicator that if you don't eat, you're going to get pissed off. And when you can't say, I'm hungry, you start acting out. There's behaviors, there are things that are happening. And the beauty of this world is I'm not going to go, oh, you're acting out, you're hitting people, you're not fitting into that box, so I'm going to give you medication. You know what the first medication given in this building is? Food. Always. We have a gentleman on the second floor of this building that when he first came to us, he was a very, very, very high need, lots and lots and lots and lots of medication. We started working with him, and one day he's angry, yelling and screaming and really, really, really pissed off. So I sat down and I said, hey, let's try something. And you guys have to understand, the medical world looks at me like I'm crazy. I am. I'll be the first to say it. I brought in grapes, I brought in a sandwich, and I brought in a Coke. 83 grapes later, because I counted them, 2 sandwiches later, and a Coke, he was perfectly fine. So what's the number one piece of his care plan now? If he's angry and agitated, feed him first. And of the last 20 times that he's been in that situation, 2 times food was not the answer. Those 2 times was he needed to go to the bathroom. So always, 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 when dealing with someone who is upset and agitated, ask, are you hungry? Have you had anything to drink today? Do you guys know what the signs of dehydration are? Do you know if you are dehydrated? Yeah. What's the first sign of dehydration? Anybody know?
Headache.
Lips dry is your first. First thing on your body, well, your lips will be dry. Usually you'll get a headache. Most residents can't articulate that they have a headache. Physical ability to check and see if someone is dehydrated is to squeeze their skin. If you squeeze and pinch and it stays in that little ridge, everybody can pinch themselves because I'd love to see if anybody's dehydrated. If you squeeze and it holds, you're dehydrated. You're really dehydrated. If you squeeze and hold and it doesn't immediately flesh back and is pink, you should drink some water. Quickest way to undehydrate yourself is drink a lot of water. I'm not your norm. I drink 160 ounces of water a day. Most people average is about, I think it's 40 ounces a day. But after working in a kitchen for 20 years, you stay hot so long, you just drink water. So I don't think I'll ever have a problem with my kidneys. But that's another piece of, if you notice someone's acting odd, their behavior's off, the first thing you can ask is, have you had anything to drink today? What are you drinking? Oh, I drink coffee. I drink Coke. Those are 2 big things as you age that also add to your dehydration. So when you have a resident who's acting a little off, little out of sorts, seems to be, the behavior is a lot different than they normally are, the first thing we're going to do is have someone check to see if they have a UTI, because you can literally go from normal to off the charts in a very, very short period of time if you have a urinary tract infection. So in normal conversation, I always, always, always ask the resident, hey, let's get something to drink. And because they all know that I drink as much water as I do, they just sit down and they drink it. There's a lot of people that you can put water in front of them, they don't even think twice, they'll drink it. They don't know to ask for it, so you are their person to help them continue getting hydrated. You know, we have residents who will say, oh no, I don't want to have anything to drink because I don't want to have to go to the bathroom. And in that situation, please report that, because then you have to have a conversation with them. Well, that's the natural process. If you don't do this, this is going to happen, and you don't want this to happen. But, you know, people are trying to control their environment because they don't have any control. I mean, stop and put yourself in the situation. I'm taking you out of where you live, and I'm moving you someplace, and I'm telling you that you have to live with a bunch of people that you don't know, and you have to share a bathroom, and you can't walk, and you have to rely on these people. Most people aren't happy about that. Most people are not too open to that idea. I akin what we're doing to college. Do you remember the first time you moved into a dorm and you had to live with someone that you didn't like or know, and then that you have to take a shower with 12 people? Thank God we don't have to shower. There are a few people here that wouldn't mind showering with 12 people. But that you have to share a bathroom. How long has it been since you've had to share a bathroom? Now fast forward and you're 80. I firmly believe that whatever you were when you were 5 years old in kindergarten is exactly what you're going to be when you're 85 years old. So if you were the class clown, or you were the flirt, or you were the introvert, that is what you're going to be when you're older. Because in the middle, you have that filter. And me at 43, I'm already losing that filter, much to Nader's chagrin. But you just say what you feel. So here I am, I'm taking you to the shower, and you're like, no, I'm not going. It's the same idea. It's the same thing with the food. So when I'm sitting at the table and you're having something that I may actually like, I'm still going to say I don't like it because I want you to stop. I want you to sit down and I want you to talk to me. I want you to have the conversation with me, not necessarily about the salmon, but about the fact that I want to talk. And the beauty of what we do is that time is here. In other models, it's not, in most situations that doesn't happen. It's all task-oriented. And as Nader was touching on, we do get very task-oriented. We definitely go, okay, I have to do this, I have to do this, I have to do this, I have to do this. But I'm not sure if Christina's touched on it, but what happens every day and what we do is magic. It literally is. I sat down Wednesday night with 2 residents at 8 o'clock at night and had a conversation about the fact that they'd had ice cream for dinner. And they were so excited, it literally was like they were little kids. And 2 residents that don't talk to each other, don't normally run in the same circles, don't normally have the same table space. But he was upset because he was in a room by himself, and she walked in and sat down on the bed and started talking to him. Number one, that's beautiful right there in itself, that the 2 of them have made this connection about ice cream. And that's where I jumped in and sat down and started having a conversation about ice cream. And then it started the stories of after World War II that ice cream was as hard to get as it was, and how much they appreciated ice cream. Because it was, oh, we have a dime so we can go buy ice cream. So it was a good opportunity to reminisce. It gave them some time to connect because they happened to be from the same state, talk about the ice cream in that state. So it was a very cool moment. So right there, that's magic. That wasn't something that was planned. That wasn't something that we orchestrated. It just happened. And fortunately, I was there to catch it and be part of it and share it with you guys today. That happens a lot in what we're doing. Happens a lot. So my words to you is be open and aware to see those kinds of things and be part of them. Share yourselves, share your food, share whatever it is that you're most passionate about with the residents, and you will connect authentically. Because one of the beautiful things about the residents that we take care of now is they are very good judges of authenticity. If you're not authentic, they won't have time for you. So please, 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 please have some fun, because food is fun. I wouldn't have picked it as a profession for as long as I did if I didn't like it. Obviously, I've not missed a meal. We eat very well, but a lot of it is derivatives of my history, my life, Gracie's history, Gracie's life. Today for lunch, you guys are having a taco bar simply because Gracie was like, hey, I want to give them something that is important to me. Her father's owned restaurants for her entire life. So she's put together all the fixings for a taco bar because, again, it's trying to meet this group's needs of vegetarians, I don't like beef, I like chicken. So you have all those choices. So this will give you a good example of what we do every day. And I open the door and say, if there's questions, ask. All you have to do is ask. I'm very approachable. Gracie's very approachable. Walk in the kitchen and ask. They're a little timid. I'll say that they are a little timid, but they are very open to anything that you need. Sue Ann?
I just want to say that the food here is prepared with a lot of love. And part of that is just sometimes go down there when they're preparing dinner and you'll hear music going and dancing and laughing and doing the work with a lot of love and care. It's their passion. And it shows in nutrition, it shows in the food, and you can see it. Usually I go in and I dance with them because it's just so much fun. But that's the kind of love you get in the food here.
Well, and who watched the World's Cup? Okay, so I'll tell you that in the kitchen at Laguna Grove, there was an iPad set up all the time watching the World's Cup. And there's a graph on the wall next to the diet boards graphing who's doing what, and them calling me and saying, you need to come watch this game, because we had residents in the building that were watching as well. So it was a place where they connected with the residents. And when Germany won, the kitchen died. They were like, oh my God! But for dinner, the night that Germany won, we had schnitzel. Much to their dismay, because we decided if Argentina won, we were going to have Argentinian food, and if Germany won, we'd have schnitzel. So begrudgingly, they made schnitzel. But that gives you some idea of how we try to connect. How, we had German exchange students 2 years ago, and we all collectively made Stalin. Never in my life knew what Stalin was. But we all made Stollen together. We made it together with the residents. We're implementing a program right now called Resident Choice, that the residents will have a choice once a week of food that we're having, and they're part of the production. So if they choose to have spaghetti and meatballs, they'll be doing the salad prep, they'll be doing the garlic bread, and then they'll be highlighted for whoever's recipe. If it's Sue Ann's recipe for spaghetti and meatballs, it'll be highlighted that way. So we can get them excited about being part of what they create. So that's part of what we do. To me, it's the biggest piece of what we do, but I'm a little biased. But I invite you, please, if there's things you'd like that you want to share, please do. We have 2 residents here that cut out recipes out of the paper every week and pass them along from high degree of difficulty. And sometimes you can't say, well, we're trying to feed 93 people. So individually rolling rice paper for 93 people, but we try. We definitely try. You'll see something like that in an event and make sure that that resident has that piece. So I welcome you guys. Please, please come say hello, engage with the residents.
I want to say one thing, Janna, because John and I have been talking for the last few years about the whole issue of food waste. And how do we deal with that? How do we deal, the statistics in the US is that 40% of all the food gets thrown away in the US. I imagine 40%. So we are trying to somehow, there's the whole regulations that you need to feed people a certain amount of whatever. But if you have a 75-pound person on whom plate you put something that is good for a 150-pound person, that's a lot of waste. So be mindful of that, talk to the kitchen, maybe there's a way we're trying to see if we can do a buffet style, a family style, so people can actually just take more. You know, so we need to be clever around this, but to just constantly throw away food is a crime, and so I like to be conscious of that. It's very painful to me personally because I grew up in post-war Germany where we had very little, and so it's also my pet peeve, and I don't think it's a good thing for anyone. So please pay attention. If you have suggestions, talk to Janna and the other people, but be aware of it. It's not a good thing. And many of the residents actually don't like it themselves because they grew up in a time when food was very precious, so they don't like seeing necessarily a whole half plate being thrown away.
And in those situations, if you come to us and say that, we can coordinate with the doctor and just have their portion size changed. It's a pretty easy process. So if it's someone who's continually saying, it's too much food, it's too much food, it's too much food, you can easily go back and have the conversation with the doctor and they can change their portion size.
That's good.
So it's easily done. Same thing with someone who says they're not getting enough food.
It was also just, I don't know if that has been said already, but we talked quite a bit of the not being assisted living and being AgeSong living. Has that been explained? I don't know if you talked about that. Oh, yeah.
We did.
Okay, good. Beautiful. All right, great.
So guys, enjoy your taco bar today.
I want to add one thing. Janna's attitude and the way that she approaches dining here is actually very therapeutic. And that's what the latest research in the field of long-term care and the health and well-being of older adults says, is that when they have choice over what they eat and they're a part of the production of that food, they are healthier and happier. And I'd be happy to provide you anyone who's interested with that research. So I think it's a thing to keep in mind is that in that sense, Janna's commitment to dining and resident choice in dining is Thank you. Is an intrinsically therapeutic thing. So I just want everyone to keep that in mind.
Thank you. We're also starting to track stuff like that because, like I said, we had a woman come in who was failure to thrive, and now 2 years later she's still alive. And because we're too busy caring for people, we're not capturing that kind of data. But we're going to start because that's one of the things that Christina and I work so closely on is she's staunchly healthcare and I'm staunchly food, and we can't do this without each other. My philosophy has always been if you come in this building, she can put a Band-Aid on you 50 times, but if you don't eat, you're going to die. You have to eat. So we have to work together. And that's why it's a beautiful relationship because with the two, we have a lot of people living a lot longer than they expected to. And they're enjoying themselves, and they're eating ice cream in their rooms and talking about growing up in Wisconsin. So
and you'll see us do all kinds of things.
Crazy things.
I'm thinking we have Kyrie's resident, Rita, who doesn't really always eat meals, but she eats with us all the time, and so people put things in my mouth and do all kinds of things, but I'm immune to all germs, so that's why it's okay. So
I'm the same way.
It's as comfortable as you can be, but like that's somebody who, as Nader said, cannot stand any big plates of food, but you'll see her, here's a piece of granola, here's a little cracker, and she survives that way. That's how she eats. And then you have other people who start banging on the plate the minute that they've eaten everything on the plate, and so we have to teach the care partners, get him more food because he's hungry and he's going to get upset if you don't give him more food. So it's really an individual pattern of residents. And then we have other folks who, we could really harm them if we give them 4 plates of food, and so then that's a relational care and a care plan to help them with a harm reduction plan, for instance. So it's a constant engagement with our residents and elders.
Okay. Thank you guys. We appreciate it. Like I said, if you have any questions, please let me know.